Welcome back, Nile Chronicles. Today we are going to talk about both the ancient kingdom and modern nation of Benin. And we're going to talk a little bit more about nations and kingdoms because the mythology is really just an expression of both those things. It's the expressions of a group of people. And as we start to unravel what these people were thinking and how it's connected, we need to understand some of the political and historical ramifications or predecessors that make these mythologies exist. And in the case of a people like those in Benin, their connection to their ancient past is still very relevant, and we can see that mythologies often don't change. They simply evolve, taking on newer forms and adding on other religious components. So starting with the Kingdom of Benin. This kingdom began in the early 900s Common Era, when the Edo people settled in the rainforests of West Africa. By the 1400s, they had created a wealthy kingdom with a powerful ruler known as the Oba. And the Obas believed in establishing good trade commerce and traded from as far as North Africa through the Mediterranean up into Europe, even at that period of time. Now, around 1440, the new Oba Ewuare took power, and he was particularly gifted at military strategy and began winning massive land for his burgeoning empire. He built Benin City and the royal palace. And he was merely the first of 5 great warrior kings who would expand the kingdom. The next being his son, Oba Ozolua, who is believed to have won as many as 200 battles. He was followed by Oba Esigie, who expanded his kingdom eastwards to form a much greater empire and won land from the Kingdom of Ife. Ozolua and Esigie both encouraged trade with the Portuguese, and they used the wealth from that trade to establish and continue to grow their vast empire. The 4th king was Oba Orhogbua, and during his reign, the kingdom reached its largest size. It stretched beyond the River Niger in the east and extended west as far as what we would call modern-day Ghana. And for 200 years, Benin reigned as a successful and powerful and prosperous kingdom. But by the 1600s, the Obas became people, and by the 1800s, Benin was no longer a unified kingdom and had been severely fractured. The kingdom came to what we would call a sudden end with the invasion of the colonial British Empire. That area remained extremely important in terms of trade and went through several successions of hands. The region became referred to as the Slave Coast from as early as that 17th century due to the large number of enslaved people who were shipped to the New World during the transatlantic slave trade. Now, this is important because we know that the mythologies of these people in this region would be spread with that transatlantic slave trade, and that's central when we talk about the migration of both genetics and beliefs. So we'll talk more about how specifically the trade in this area has still having real effects on the world that we live in right now. After slavery was abolished, the French took over the country and renamed it French Dahomey. And in the 1960s, Dahomey was able to gain its full independence from France. The sovereign nation has had a very tumultuous history with many democratic governments, military coups, and military governments, but has now firmly established a democratic republic which exists to this day. So Benin, officially known now as the Republic of Benin, is a country in West Africa. It is bordered by Togo to the west, Nigeria to the east, and Burkina Faso and Niger to the north. The majority of its population lives on the small southern coastline, part of the Gulf of Guinea in the northmost tropic portion of the Atlantic Ocean. The capital of Benin is Porto Novo. This is an area of approximately 42,000 square miles, very temperate climate, and a population of just over 250,000 per the United Nations 2013 census. Seat of government is Cotonou, the country's largest city and economic capital. Benin covers an area of 114,763 square kilometers, or if you're an American, 44,310 square miles, and its population as of 2016 was estimated to be approximately 10.87 million. Benin is a tropical nation highly dependent on agriculture, and it is a massive exporter of cotton and palm oil. Substantial employment and income arise from subsistence farming. Now, obviously, due to colonization, the official language spoken in Benin is French. However, the indigenous languages such as Fon and Yoruba are commonly spoken. The largest religious group in Benin is the Roman Catholic Church, followed by Islam and Protestantism. Abrahamic religion has come into that region in 3 different forms. Politically, Benin is a member of the United Nations, the African Union, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the South Atlantic Peace and Cooperation Zone, the African Petroleum Producers Association, and the Niger Basin Authority. So we see that this very tiny African nation has had a great influence not only in West Africa with their beliefs, but those beliefs have bridged the gap, crossed the Atlantic, and established themselves in the Americas, particularly strong in Latin America, as we see Yoruba beliefs form almost a symbiotic relationship with Catholicism and Christianity here in the Americas. This also shows a significant connection between people of Latin descent living in South America or the Americas and an African tribe, which I think speaks volumes to our connections among people. These are the type of connections that we look for when we're talking about Nine World Chronicles and figuring out what connects various peoples around the world. And sometimes it simply takes a look at our own history to figure out why people believe certain things and where those beliefs come from. So please join us again as we continue to probe deeper into the mysteries that connect and unite various peoples around the world.